Welcome to the Blueprints to Buildings podcast. I'm your host, Glen Palmer, and on this show, I interview the movers and shakers in the world of property development and real estate. Now, this show is supported by something few developers are quietly using in the background to get their projects funded and sold faster without the traditional 3D models. Now, it's early, it's clever, and it's changing the way people see off-plan property. I'll leave it there, but if you're curious, message me at LinkedIn at Glen Palmer Secure or check out the show notes below. Now, today I am joined by Alina Griva. Now, she is a seasoned Nova Scotia real estate agent with over 12 years experience. She's an investor, a property owner with 11 plus rental units who's passionate about proving home ownership is real, feasible, and wealth building for everyday people like you and me. Alina, great to have you on the show.
Thank you, Ben.
Can't wait to jump in and see how the Nova Scotia landscape is all about. So thank you. Shall we jump right in, shall we?
Yeah, sounds good.
So, Alina, this is something I ask every single one of my guests, and I love the different responses. So, if time travel became a reality and you had a chance to go back in time to when you first started your career, what would the person that you are now give your past self or your younger self?
I would just a little bit tweak that question. I wouldn't go back all the way to start my career, but a little bit more farther to when I start my studying
Hmm.
and my background in financial planning. So now looking back, I think I will be better off to get accounting degree, which my mom was always told me about it. She used to be accountant. And I'm
Yeah.
like, Mom, your job is too boring. I will never do what you do. But now looking back, probably that would be more useful for my personal taxes. Um, just be more savvy in terms when it comes to taxation, planning, business structure,
Hmm.
which I also do, but having that designation or deeper knowledge. So I would say, kids, listen to your parents.
Yeah.
They are the one who live life, they have more experience, and sometimes when we're young, we think we know too much. We are too smart, we know way more than our parents, but sometimes it's worth to just listening to them and maybe take one or two advices.
Yeah, I totally agree with you that there. I remember when I was younger, yeah, when everybody goes through this phase where you think you know absolutely everything, and whatever they say, it doesn't matter because you know what's best. And it's always funny when I think back to those times, and I think, you know what, when I told my dad this or I told my dad that, and I'm thinking, you know what, he was right. And now it's sort of flipped. Now I'm telling well, I haven't got any kids, but I'm telling my nieces and nephews about, you got to do this, you got to do that. And they're doing exactly the same thing. So always makes me laugh. So yeah, I agree with you there, Alina. So, Alina, you brought your first home when you were only 23 years old, and now you've got over 11 properties. What is the key mindset or strategy shifts that took you from that first-time buyer to that portfolio owner?
That was, I would say, a mistaken because yes, I bought my first home at 23, but to make that move from being a homeowner to investor, it happened by fluke. It happened during COVID, where no one knows what's going to happen. What happened in our situation is that we sold our home and we bought another one that we're supposed to move in.
Hmm.
And that literally happened during COVID, where
Oh,
world
wow.
was shutting off, and the buyer who purchased our house, they backed out from the deal, but we could
Wow.
not. So we took a chance. luckily we were able to qualify to have both properties, and that was, I would say, the big eye opener that it's possible. It's possible for people with generally average income
Hmm.
and take that risk, take that responsibility, and be open to what life gives to you. And as they say, sometimes when life gives you lemon, you just have to squeeze
Make
it and
lemonade.
make lemonade, right? So
Yeah.
that's what pretty much happened to us, and that was the eye opener. And from that, just this is how we got to 11 properties
So
that we
that's
have right
that.
now.
Alina, that's even more impressive because you went from a single homeowner in 2020 and in
Yep,
within 6 years you've bought 11 plus properties.
yep.
That is phenomenal. I mean, that is a hell of a lot of fucking lemonade, if you ask me. So, well done on that. So now you work across Colchester, Dartmouth, Halifax, and beyond.
Yep.
How would you describe today's market for buyers, sellers, and investors alike? So, for example, what are the balance conditions? What are the opportunities out there for the people in Nova Scotia? What are the different challenges that you can find and face?
I would say that right now it's still buyer's market in certain part of Colchester where I work.
Hmm.
Definitely Halifax got busier. However, you still can find unicorns. And by unicorns, I mean that grade bonds, houses at relatively cheap price that has tons of equity potential, either for first-time home buyer, investor, flipper, that with the minimum money invested and time can give you high return.
Yeah,
In
yeah,
terms of
nice.
challenges, um, I would say two biggest challenges that I find for first-time home buyers, it's mostly mindset shifting that I find that local people, especially local, they are stuck in the idea that home ownership is unachievable for us.
Mm,
And they just got, I guess, that idea maybe from parents or from people that they hang out, that what point to try? I would be a renter all my life, and nothing would you tell me it's gonna work out for me, so just let me be the way it is, right? There's a few people
yeah,
that willing to open their eyes, willing to take responsibility, because being a homeowner, it's responsibility. The same way as being tenant is responsibility, but for some reason, um, people believe that it's easier. It's if something doesn't work out, you just pack up your stuff and leave,
yeah,
right? For investors, the biggest challenge for investors, especially out of provinces or out of country investors, it's 10% additional tax that currently right now in Nova Scotia. So that's one of the biggest challenge for investors. However, even with that additional 10%, numbers still work. Still, you can find great cash flow properties and great investment opportunities.
yeah. Brilliant. Oh, great advice. I mean, um, there's a saying that I kind of like, and I think it's quite true that we are tattooed with people's beliefs or our network's belief right at the beginning. And if you have family members that have always rented, if you have your immediate circle of friends that have always rented, it's very hard to get out of that mindset and that belief that yes, I can actually buy a home. And I find it absolutely fascinating that a person can spend 20 odd years renting when that house could have been theirs if
Yeah.
they just thought of it a little bit differently. So
Mhm.
yeah, the mind boggles, but for people like you that are actually renting out properties, it's great. But I can see where you sort of land on both sides of the coin, aren't you? Because you are investing and you
Mhm.
are sort of buying properties that are you're renting out, but you're also teaching people how to buy their homes. So how do you manage that? That scale.
I was always passionate about home ownership. That was, I believe, the way how I was raised. That I would say cultural identity. That it's kind of traditional that you have to get married, you have to have family, you have to have your house, right? So that's
Hmm.
kind of the belief that I was raised, and my family was the same way. So getting into homeownership that early when I saw opportunity with my husband, we just grab it. And right now I'm trying to project the same theory, the same idea to younger generation or
Yeah.
younger myself, people that I see around, that it's still durable.
Yeah.
Me and my husband, we bought our first house with, at the time, we earned pretty much a little bit above minimum wage. So what I'm trying to say, you don't have to wait till you get to 5, 10 years of your work experience. You don't have to be millionaire. You don't have to be from very well-off family.
Mm.
Everyone, it starts from you, and if you have the dedication, when you have goal and idea, it's all possible, right? It all
Yeah.
starts with right mindset and with the due diligence and dedication to your
Nice.
idea.
So, Alina, you've renovated multiple homes. What renovation strategies actually drive return on investment in Atlantic Canada?
There is few There's a few investment strategies that definitely gives you one of the best rate of return. One of the cheapest is painting. You'll be
Hmm.
surprised that just by painting house in one neutral color will give you completely different look. Especially, I find it in a lot of older homes, people tend to be a little bit eccentric and using two bright colors that
Yeah.
essentially harm and sell their properties. Uh, Secondary suite, like basement suite, in-law suite, any type of suite, either legal or illegal, um, potentially gives you great rate of return. On top of that, it helps to generate additional monthly income.
Hmm.
That's always helpful, especially when you're a first-time home buyer, the mortgage is really high. That additional income definitely one of the key driver for the resale property afterwards. And the traditional kitchen and bathrooms, those are very high ticket items that always get one of the best
Yeah.
choice.
Yeah. And we often talk about first-time buyers and many people feeling that they're priced out of the market. So, what are the biggest myths, holding those potential first-time buyers back from actually acting right now? And how do you help them, you know, demystify those myths?
One of the biggest need or challenges that I find it among young people is, I would say, entitlement. Entitlement in a way, if I was born and raised in that city, I this is the city where all my family and friends are, and I have to be and buy a house in that city. This is what I mean by entitlement. And
Mm.
nowadays, I find that you have to look for opportunities, and if the opportunities does not present within your, let's say, our driving circle, look for opportunities outside the circle and try to establish your life where you still can or it's more affordable. By
Yeah.
taking those risks, definitely helps along the way. This
Yeah.
is what happened. Um, in our family. Originally, we used to live in Toronto. As you know, Toronto is big, very expensive city, even though we own house in Toronto. But we realized it quickly that we would not be able to get the size and quality of the house and the area of the house that we want. And we looked outside. And that's how we end up in British Columbia. We
Hmm.
spent 7 years in British Columbia. By the time where all the opportunities that we were able to grab died out, we'll look outside of Australia, and that's why we moved to Nova Scotia. So don't be
Yeah.
stuck in one place and one idea that just because I was born and raised and I have to be there. Look for new opportunities where you can and be open to the world.
Yeah. And then the great thing about that is you get to meet new people. You get
Exactly.
to expand your network of people. You get to experience a different side of a country that you might have not, known. So life is an adventure, isn't it, Alina? And
I
by
agree.
getting out of your comfort zone and going somewhere else, you know, you might be able to experience a whole new world, a whole new passion, a whole new people, and get yourself out there and explore the world. So really good advice, to be honest. Now, Alina, real estate is still very, very much human centered, but it's everywhere now. Wherever you go, there's tools with AI. They're emerging everywhere. Where do you actually see automation and AI helping agents and investors most? So, for example, is it predictive market insights? Is it client matching, valuation modeling? What do you see the next big thing and the next big jump from human centric to AI, and AI helping the actual sort of process of investing and buying new properties?
I still believe that AI would not be able to replace human touch and human, I would say, gut
100% agree with
feeling,
that.
right? Yes, AI can evaluate the property, can give you the full detail analysis, but there's 5% that for investor to determine if that property or that area is worth investing. So how I personally, as an agent, use AI, it helps me as my admin work assistant, right? So writing emails, doing marketing, organizing, that definitely helps and reduces hours
Yeah.
work.
Yeah, and then following on from that, as tech improves, access to data and leads, that sort of thing. What human skills do you still think will always matter in real estate? So, for example, the human touch, the negotiation, the trust factor, the local insight, which AI won't be able to really give, well, perhaps maybe, but not in the way that humans can. So,
Mhm.
what human skills do you think will still matter throughout?
I think personal skills such as emotional support, talking to your clients. Yeah, I would not be able to hold your client's hand and navigate through their entire process. Wouldn't be able to hug when they need to be hugged, when they're going through roller coasters of making decision,
Yeah,
or they have unexpected turn down. Negotiation is definitely one of the strongest that AI would not be able. Like imagine two AI trying to negotiate between each other
I
on the
can imagine.
property, on the contract. So no,
Yeah.
definitely, I don't afraid that AI will take over real estate job.
Yeah,
Again, it might weed out some very weak agents, but if you have a very strong work ethic, if you are passionate and you truly love what you're doing, people sense it, people admire it, and people will want to work with you.
yeah, Yeah. Alina, really loved having you on the show. Really enjoyed the conversation. And just the different tweaks in the real estate market in Nova Scotia and the way that you approach your real estate and your investing. And then again, one thanks to my listeners, viewers as YouTube as well. But Alina, before we go and sign off, if listeners or viewers wanted to get in touch with you, learn about what you actually offer, what are the best ways to do that?
Through my Facebook, my Instagram, I'm gonna provide you links so you can put the description and email
Excellent.
and phone call as well.
Yeah, if you let me know, I will put it in the description below. So,
Sounds good.
quick reminder, this episode was supported by a prop tech visual platform that is changing how forward-thinking developers plan, pitch, and sell. Now, it isn't mainstream yet, but it will be. If you want to stay ahead of the curve, you know where to find me. You've been listening to Blueprints to Buildings podcast. I'm your host, Glen Palmer, and today I was joined by Alina Griva. Thank you again for listening and watching, and I see you on the next episode.